Welcome and well met, all my fellow warriors of light, and thank you for joining me here as we talk about something that we had an issue about for some time, and we've yet to really get a clear answer on what the difference is. And of course, I'm talking about the blessing of light and the echo. These are two very powerful abilities or gifts that we have in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, or as I like to think of them, as plot convenience. I'm sorry, but that's honestly just what it feels like whenever the dev team feel that they have to add a new power in. Boom, it's an extra effect of the echo. First we can see into the past of others, now we can understand all other languages as well? Wait, you're telling me that we're now immune to tempering this time? And then came the whole revelation that the echo can see into the future. Where did that come from? First we see into the past, and now it has the power to see into the future. That has yet to ever be mentioned before Stormblood came out. Come on here, pick a lane. Don't keep changing the rules here because it's a struggle to try to keep up. And you wonder why people are having such a hard time trying to really keep track of all these different abilities. And what exactly is the blessing of light? What does that mean? And why is it that only a select few Echo users have such a blessing? So today we're going to go into more details about both the blessing of light and the echo, as well as to go into more details on each one and their different abilities and why they've been so important into the story up till now. And maybe we'll even go into more ideas about what could entail for the future now that Hydaelyn is no longer around. So first off, let me explain a little more about exactly what the echo is. The echo is a special ability that only a rare few people have. Basically put, those who have this gift, they can use this ability to resonate with other people's souls, such as being able to see into their past, speak and understand every language, and apparently users are protected against tempering by primals. The most advanced users of the echo can actually transcend their mortal forms and become solid souls, as we have seen with the Ascians and the Sahagin priest. Those who have awakened it often experience it by first gaining a vision of a star shower falling from a burning sky. Afterwards, they hear Hydaelyn's voice calling out to them with her classic, hear, feel, think. And it's not long afterwards that the echo's powers are made known, and it's long been assumed that the echo is a literal gift from the goddess. But the truth is that this is actually an ability that all living beings naturally have already, but very few people are ever able to actually awaken it. This gift is just the remains of an ancient power that the ancients had, a residual left over after the people were sundered thousands of years prior. In the ancient past, before the sundering, people were much more able to harness this ability and train themselves to use it for many different reasons. As such, it is believed that those who have the echo in modern day may have been gifted with using the echo in their ancient past, so awakening it came much easier compared to most others. It's also believed that the echo only awakens before an umbral calamity is about to visit the world, and echo users are Hydaelyn's gift to mankind to fight the coming threat. Now, it's partially true. Hydaelyn is able to call out to people and show them an image of a star shower, thus awakening this ability. But why a star shower? Well, memories can imprint upon the soul, and if the memory itself is definitely powerful enough, it doesn't matter how many times you die and are reborn, those particular memories can come back to you over time. And thus with the star shower, the soul can be forced to remember the trauma of the final days, and the dormant ability of the echo can be awoken in that moment. As a result of this, echo users often are those with strong wills and decide to fight for the good of all, thus furthering the belief that Hydaelyn is choosing those most likely to save the world or guide the people to a better tomorrow. But it doesn't seem that Hydaelyn is able to choose whom the echo is awakened to, so she herself is not the one who's directly awakening it. In truth, her voice is constantly ringing out across the source and its reflections, like a recording, and it affects all who are able to hear it. If Heidelin did have the ability to choose whom is granted the echo or not, then I don't think that those like Xenos or Fordola, or even those people who were awakened when Elidibus called out to them back in the Crystarium, would have been granted the echo. But I'll go into more details on that in a moment. The most notable ability of the echo is being able to view the memories of another being, often occurring without the user's control, though people can train themselves to trigger it at will. Such visions can even show events that took place over the course of thousands of years, such as how the Warrior of Light was able to see a vision of Emperor Xande's life in the Third Astral Era about 5,000 years prior. Another effect that the echo has is being able to understand languages, such as when speaking to an Ascian, when we are able to understand them clearly, though oftentimes we're with people who don't have the echo, definitely can't understand a word they're saying. Though it does seem that the person that the echo user is speaking to has to have a soul for this ability to work, such as in the case of Alpha. The Warrior of Light could not understand Alpha at first until after Omega was defeated, where it was suspected by Sid that Alpha was able to gain a soul of his own because we were able to understand him at the end of the series for Omega. Another thing is that the Ascians are normally invisible and undetectable without possessing a host body, but echo users are able to see them as they truly are. When we first meet Elidibus in A Realm Reborn, for example, Minfilia could clearly see him when he appeared in the Waking Sands, but Tataru could not, even though he was standing right next to her. It's here he claims that the echo is actually a gift that we have yet to master, and if we did, we may be able to see the Ascians for who they really were, and even encouraged us to understand the true nature of the echo. Later on in Shadowbringers, Elidibus was also the one who revealed the true nature of the echo and how it's really awakened. That those who witness the star shower, similar to the final days, will enact their ancient memories before the sundering. He then proved this after he created a star shower illusion in the sky above the Crystarium to cause the echo to awaken in a handful of the citizens who were watching it. And then back in Heavensward, we saw how the echo could be used to break down the barriers of existence, such as when La Habrea and Egeorm were able to combine into a creature known as Ascian Prime. What happened here was that their souls actually fused together, and all of their combined power formed into a much more powerful creature. And in Stormblood, the Garleans were even able to come up with a way to instill within others an artificial echo, so that even people like pure-blooded Garleans can manipulate ether. Fordola and Xenos were both used to test this, transforming them into what they call the Resonant, using the echo and gaining its effects. Xenos was even able to use his artificial echo to merge together with the dragon Shinryu, not just once, but twice, and also was able to take control over our body once our soul was extracted, though that part was at least temporary. So yeah, the echo definitely has a lot of abilities, and it is hard to keep track of them all. But on top of all that, the echo seems to have several additional effects given the person in question. Kryl, for example, can sense the traces of a person's soul and can trace etheric signatures. She's even able to track souls through the live stream given if she has a strong enough focus, such as using Matoya's crystal eye. Fordola, who is a resonant, seems to have a sense of clairvoyance in detecting minor shifts in the ether of others that let her predict and avoid enemy attacks, much like how the Warrior of Light can see AoEs and attacks in battle. And most notably, we have Makoto, who has the ability to see brief glimpses of the future with her version of the echo. All in all, I think the best way to explain this is simply to put it, to think of it as a power of the soul, or resonating with another soul. As for any extra effects, I think the most reasonable explanation for that is perhaps their ancient selves were able to master their versions of the echo to suit their needs, and perhaps that was just a talent that they specifically learned in their ancient lives, and just a weaker version of it just lives on in our souls until it's awakened. So what about the Blessing of Light? How is that different from the echo? So yes, these two things are definitely different from one another. And what is clear to me is that while Heidelin can't choose whom the echo awakens in a person, she can choose whom receives the Blessing of Light. This is a power that is bestowed upon the Warrior of Light by her directly, and it's separated from the echo, like I said. It seems that the blessing is tied and empowered by crystals of light, crystals of peerless quality and purity. These are gifts from Heidelin to those Echo users who are able to manifest them by their deeds. She is granting them a sliver of her own power for them to use in upcoming battles and challenges to protect the star and the people who call it home. The blessing seems to be able to allow faster growth by providing ether in amounts that's normally unavailable, as well as seemingly helping to amplify our own natural capacity and abilities. This blessing also seems to provide protection in several different forms to not just the Echo user, but to those around them. A case in point, we have the Scions and the Rising Stones, which prevented any Ascians from waltzing in whenever they wanted, though it was said that the Unsundered were still able to bypass this protection. Heidelin herself was also able to intervene on rare occasions due to this ability, such as during the battle with the Ultima weapon. We were able to hear her voice during the battle as she encouraged us, and throughout the fight, the essences of the captured primals were stripped away one by one. So in that case, I do think that she was able to use the crystals of light as some kind of amplifiers or conduits to be able to strip the primals from the Ultima weapon. She was also able to shield the Warrior of Light against the Ultima spell, though that did end up costing her greatly because Heidelin is not able to directly intervene or communicate again for the rest of the game. Later in Shadowbringers, it is shown that it can also be used to absorb the ether of 5 Light Wardens, though even that had its limitations, as the Primordial Light almost caused the Warrior of Light to transform into a Sin Eater themselves. In the same game, it was later used when the Warrior of Light was able to break free of the chains and the dying gasp by Hades before protecting them from his powers of darkness as they continued battling with him. All in all, it seems that the blessing is best described as being able to offer all manner of protections just depending on the situation. And it's important to note that all who have the blessing of light are also Echo users, but not all Echo users have the blessing or even a crystal of light, such as in the case of Menphilia and Arenvald, who both have the Echo naturally, but they don't have the blessing. Think of Nabrialis and how he was able to enter the Rising Stones after the Warrior of Light lost their blessing. Menphilia was at his mercy, so while she did have the Echo so that she could understand everything he was saying, she didn't have the blessing of light to prevent him from entering. And this also counts for the artificial Echo like Fordola, who gained the Echo via the resonance but doesn't have the blessing or a crystal either. Very few Echo users are ever able to actually receive the blessing because they either have never met a challenge appropriate for one to manifest, or they end up dying in the attempt. So here's how it goes. Heidelin is constantly calling out to everyone. An ordinary person is shown a vision of a star shower or through some other means that cause them to awaken the Echo. Once the Echo is awoken, thus gaining new abilities that can range depending on the person, they are now put through many trials and sacrifices. Eventually, they are able to distinguish themselves, they prove themselves as true heroes, and Heidelin grants them her blessing in the form of a crystal, thus gaining the blessing of light. So we know that to attain a crystal, one has to pass a trial rather than just being gifted right away by Heidelin. These crystals, while powerful, they're not infinite sources of ether, and they can actually be drained of ether and just exhausted until they're just soulless crystals again, such as in the cases of Oddbird and his companions and with Hazel. This is the same effect that Midgardsormr eventually locks away within us. Now, Midgardsormr doesn't destroy our blessing of light after we go through all the trouble of collecting the crystals, and I think it was really more like he just sealed up the powers of the crystals, thus cutting us off from them. Think of it as someone who rides their bike with training wheels only to have the training wheels taken away and be told that they have to prove they can ride the bike without having this as a crutch. Kind of a dick move, but he did make it possible that we can reawaken it later on by proving we have what it takes to really rise to the challenge and break down the walls that he built around us. Though it's interesting to note that this is also proof that the blessing of light isn't the parts that protects us from tempering. For the blessing was disabled, but we still had the protection from being tempered, so that's another factor here. What I think is responsible for that is a third power in the form of Vana's Traveler's Ward. After we met Vana in the ancient past, she tells us that this Traveler's Ward specifically protects one against etheric corruption, and despite how there are many such spells of protection out there, the one we carry is recognized by her as her own spell. This seems to be the part in what protects us from becoming temperate to begin with. But if that's the case, then the Traveler's Ward can't be what we associate with the Blessing of Light, because of Midgardsormr disabling the blessing for us but still leaving us with the etheric protection. So then the Traveler's Ward has to be the Echo, right? Well, no, that's not true either, because first of all, the Ward is a spell that Vana created, and the Echo is a natural ability that everyone has. Not only that, but there was something else that FFXIV told us that really makes me question this. See, I don't think that the Echo is what protects us from tempering. I know that goes against everything we've been told up till now, but I have a reason for thinking that. Back in Shadowbringers, FFXIV at one point tells us that even the ancients were subjected to tempering at some time. Despite having the full version of the Echo, full access and full training for it, as well as unsundered souls, the people were still succumbing to tempering by Zodiark. I think that the Echo could be used to offer some protection against all but the most powerful of primals, but then what of the Traveler's Ward? I mean, we definitely have that. Vana was able to confirm that. So if we take what FFXIV said and how he and other Convocation members were tempered by Zodiark, then that means that the Echo can't prevent tempering alone, especially when we add in the factor that we faced off against Zodiark himself and we weren't tempered with a sundered version of the Echo. I mean, it could also be fair to say that Zodiark himself was also sundered, so he wasn't at his full strength, but then again, our Echo wasn't at full strength either. Just saying. So because Midgardsormr was able to temporarily seal off our Blessing of Light, I believe that the Traveler's Ward and the Blessing are two separate things. But now, because of FFXIV, I also believe now that the Echo and the Traveler's Ward are also two separate things as well. So how about this instead? Instead of having two different elements at work here, instead of just having the Echo and the Blessing of Light, we have three elements working. So we have the Echo, the Blessing, and the Traveler's Ward all mixed together. So the first of which is the Echo, which contrary to popular belief isn't what protects us from tempering. Yes, it is the residual left over from our ancient selves. Some of these are specific to certain individuals, but they are fundamentally the same, the power of the soul. Then we have the Blessing of Light, which is directly granted by having one or more crystals of peerless quality. These are gifts from Hydaelyn that seem to amplify our abilities and offer many forms of protection from powerful foes, such as when we faced off against Hades or when we were able to absorb large amounts of light from the Light Wardens. And finally, to complete the trinity, we have the Traveler's Ward, which protects us from tempering and similar effects. So I think that all Echo users have both the Echo and the Traveler's Ward. So as Hydaelyn is sending out her message, her ward could also be included when we hear her voice. Thus, that would be the explanation why everyone believes that the Echo is what protects us from tempering, when it could actually just be Hydaelyn's Traveler's Ward. So what about Xenos and Flodola then? How could they have the Traveler's Ward if they got their Echo through artificial means? Well, like I said, the Echo is an ability that everyone has, but very few people have what it takes to actually awaken it. And what the Resonant is able to do is both copy the abilities of one person's Echo into another person, while also possibly forcibly waking the Echo within them at the same time. If we look at Misaja and Makoto from the Southern Front, Makoto was used as a base to have the Echo copied into Misaja, aka the gift of seeing the future. Misaja gained the power to see the future as well, but she seemed to have much greater control over it, especially if she had her own Echo awaken at the same time as well. That, or it could simply be the matter that the Traveler's Ward spell was also copied from a proper Echo user as well during the process of creating a Resonant. I think that if it was sufficient enough for them to hear Hydaelyn, however, even if it was just for the briefest moment, they could have been warded as well. Just like with the people of the first whose echoes were awakened by Elidibus, If just hearing her voice is all that it takes for the ward spell to be cast, then it is possible they were granted the protection regardless of how they gained the echo. What I think is happening here is that when one sees a vision of a star shower or another means to awaken their buried ability of the echo, then that is all that it takes to set it into motion. As soon as the echo is awoken, for a moment we're able to hear Hydaelyn's message. The moment that we do, we are gifted her ward to protect us from tempering, thus creating the foundation for a future hero of the star. So all echo users have both the Traveler's Ward and the echo, thus creating the belief that the echo is what protects one from tempering. For a selected few of those echo users though, after a great enough trial that a crystal of light manifests, that's when they are gifted the blessing of light, proof that we understand what it takes to become a hero. And the more challenges that we face, the more opportunities we have to collect more crystals, as was the way with us. Our blessing of light is different from any other in that we have 6 crystals altogether, or as Nadana once commented on it, a one-of-a-kind blessing, proof that we are a true warrior of light and Hydaelyn's chosen champion. But what does this mean for the future? Without Hydaelyn here anymore, does that mean that the echo will never awaken again? Will there be no future warriors of light? Does that mean that even if the echo is awakened in future generations, will they lose their ability of resistance to tempering? While it would be difficult to imagine how it could be done, I do think that the echo will still be making appearances from time to time generations from now. Remember, it doesn't have to be Hydaelyn herself to awaken the echo. Elidibus was able to prove that on the first when he created the illusion of the star shower. I'm sure that the echo will be awoken in the future and that it will still have all these strange powers that come with it, such as being able to understand other languages and seeing both the past, maybe even the future. But if the Traveler's Ward alone was what was keeping them safe from being tempered, then yeah, I do think that it will lose it if Hydaelyn isn't able to cast it any longer. As to the concept of the blessing of light and Hydaelyn's chosen champion, yeah, I do think that we are the last of those heroes. For without Hydaelyn, there'll be no future crystals of light, so no more blessings of light or Hydaelyn's chosen champions. In that sense, we truly are the last of the true warriors of light. I'm sure that there will be future heroes that rise up for the good of the people and help to protect the world, thus earning the title of Warrior of Light. But never again will there be a blessing of light, nor Hydaelyn's chosen. But then again, would it strictly be necessary anymore? I mean, without the Ascians to fan the flames of chaos, there shouldn't be any need to worry for future calamities. So long as mankind can remember to get along with their beast tribe neighbors, I don't think that they will have a reason to want to summon their primals and thus won't have a reason for us to have to fight them. At least not so often. Remember, the current beast tribes had to learn summoning from the Ascians, and that was fairly recently, meaning that they had once forgotten how to do so because primals had been summoned before in previous eras, such as during the war with Alec. I think that it's fair to say that after a few centuries, the art of summoning fades from the people's minds, and the Ascians just have to reteach them how to do so, just so that they can continue to keep the chaos constantly flowing. So if that's true, then perhaps in a few generations from now, the knowledge of summoning will also fade again, especially if it's considered forbidden to resorting to summonings. Not only that, but we also have a way to not only cure tempered, such as in the forms of Porxies, thanks to Alisaie, but we have ways to prevent it, such as with the Garlean radio and most notably the warding scales from Vitra. So I think that so long as mankind has such tactics in their arsenal, then it would not be the worst thing in the world if the Echo no longer has the means to protect one from corruption. Of course, there will always be strife and chaos in the worlds of men, and people will undoubtedly call out for salvation, thus causing future heroes to answer their calls, thus granting them the chance to awaken the Echo and putting their skills to good use, even if there's no crystal proving it. But remember, it was never that we gained a crystal that we became a hero. Rather, we gained the crystals after we proved we had what it took to become one. Anyway, that is it from me and my theory about all three of these abilities, and I do think it makes a lot of sense if you look at it from this point of view. But what do you all think? Did you like my theory, or did I miss something in there? Either way, please leave a like and a comment down below if you like this video and want to see more. If you have any ideas or requests on any kind of future theories or questions, please let me know as well, and perhaps I'll be able to make that into a video someday. For right now, though, I hope that you all are having an amazing day. You enjoyed this own particular discussion, and I hope to see you all again soon. So until next time, everyone, it's Fantasy Girl signing out.